Will Orpheus travel to the underworld to find her? And what will Zeus finally do about the monument desecration? Welcome back. This is Sean's Take on Things. My name is Sean Redmond. I am your host. Today we're talking about Kaos, Season 1, Episode 2. This is your spoiler alert. From here on out, I'll assume you've seen the episode or don't care if I spoil it. I'll also use clips from the show, as is allowed under the fair use provision of the copyright laws of 1976. Let's dig in. This episode opens with somebody we haven't met before. It turns out this person's name is Caneus, and the Furies show up and kill him right in front of his mother. It turns out the Furies brought his mother with them. And it's interesting. I don't know the individual names of the Furies, but right before she shoots him, she says, "You've changed," and then kills him, sends him to the underworld without a coin. So, according to Greek mythology, Caneus was born female, and after having sexual relations with Poseidon, he transformed her into a man and made him invulnerable to injury. So at least part of Caneus' story is not true, or they wouldn't have been able to shoot him with an arrow. But I thought it was interesting that they said, "You've changed." Oh, and the thing from episode 1 that I forgot to mention, you know what? Let me turn off the background noise. That'll be better. That will be better. One of the things I forgot to mention last week last episode, in the musical Hadestown, when Hades introduces Eurydice, when Hermes introduces Eurydice, he says, "A young girl looking for something to eat." And I think it's funny or ironic or plan or whatever that when we meet Eurydice in this series, she's in a supermarket looking for something to eat. So they are staying, if not letter perfect true, again, painting in broad strokes. So I don't know how much of Caneus' story will be revealed, or how close we're going to stay to that mythology of Caneus. But Prometheus does tell us in a little while that he is the second human of the three that are important to the bringing down of Zeus. All right, we see Orpheus awaken or come to. Yeah, that might work a little better. And his place is a mess. The house is a mess. He bends down and picks up the toy from a cereal box. We don't really see what the toy is. And then Dionysus is there, and Orpheus says, "I thought I dreamt you. Can I really get Riddy back?" So we jump to what is in fact now labeled as the River Styx, and the cruise ship with all of the newly dead passing over the River Styx. So as it turns out, I was not remembering correctly. I thought you needed your coin for the rivermen to get you across the River Styx. But it turns out that the River Styx is complimentary, and it's the next river that actually takes you to the frame for reincarnation, or renewal, as they refer to it in this show. So I'm not sure if that's a change from mythology, or if I just didn't remember it. It's been a long time since I took Greek and Roman mythology. And if I spend all my time looking up all of these things, I'll never get around to making a video. So we'll just go with this. We're on a cruise ship going across the River Styx. She needs her coin to be able to get into the frame to get to renewal. Yeah. And we see Caneus, who's working, and he's walking the three-headed dog, whom I've always believed that dog's name is Cerberus. They pronounce it differently in this show, and they didn't really print it for me to get clear on what they're saying about the dog's name. So I'm just going to call him Cerberus. Cerberus has always been one of my favorites, the three-headed dog, and I've always pictured him much bigger, along the lines of Fluffy from Harry Potter, if you've seen the Harry Potter movies. Fluffy was guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. And then they get a video welcome from Lord Hades, Professor Lupin, and it's a standard sort of corporate welcome message. Your devotion to my family, meaning the gods, is about to pay off. And then we see Eurydice flash back to when she was trying to get a reaction out of her mother and rather loudly defying the gods right before she walked out of the church and got hit by the truck and died. So it's her last thing on earth was to defy the gods, only to find out now that it actually matters. We get to the actual underworld and see Hades at his desk, and Persephone. And Zeus is on the phone, and Hades has him on speaker. Hades is nodding off asleep. Persephone throws stuff at him to wake him up. And Zeus asks out loud, "Am I on speaker?" And Hades says, "No." So Zeus says, "We're going to send a message to these monument shitters," and then doesn't say what message they're going to send, but he asks if they've put more divers on. And Hades says no. Zeus says why. They start to explain. And Zeus says, "Just do it. It's just crowd control. Just get more divers." So the divers are the people that work in the underworld, that work in the underworld, taking people who are heading to renewal to the frame. In the other river, the frame is out there, and they go into the water, and the divers help them transition and get to the frame. Persephone thinks this is a complicated process. Zeus doesn't. Hades nods off again, and Persephone changes very quickly from arguing with Zeus to saying, "Consider it done." And it's actually a moment where the Jeff Goldblum sort of quirky way of speaking fits perfectly here, where he's ready to argue too, and he goes, "Hey, oh, okay, good." So yeah, and then the last thing Zeus says while he's on speakerphone is he asks Hades and Persephone if they've seen his watch, and Persephone hangs up on him. I don't know that it's going to matter in this series or in this season of this series, but Persephone only spends half of the year in Hades, and she spends the other half of the year on Earth. And when she travels to the underworld, the Earth becomes cold, and when she comes back, it becomes warm and renewed. So Persephone arrives every spring, stays all summer, and then heads back. I don't know if we're going to use all that, but that's who Persephone is. Madly in love with her husband Hades, by the way, or at least she's supposed to be. On the river Styx, we see Eurydice looking over the railing of the boat, and the woman that was the human sacrifice walks up next to her, and they have a brief conversation that woman actually cut the tongues out of basically Eurydice's mother's mouth, and she served Hera her whole life and never married. And Eurydice says, "Was that by choice?" Then they talk about renewal and how they're going to come back, and the woman thinks she's going to get upgraded because she was the human sacrifice. And Eurydice says, "Well, I was hit by a truck right after defying the gods, so I'm probably going back as a rock or something." And the woman walks away. And I don't focus on profanity often, but in this case, Eurydice turns from that conversation and looks back out over the river Styx, and under her breath says, "And at the same time, Orpheus is in what I believe to be a Plymouth Fury, flying down the road with Dionysus, screaming the same word." I don't know if it has meaning or if it's just the way they wanted to do the cut, but I thought it was funny. And if it's not a Plymouth Fury that they were in, let me know if you know what kind of car that is. I think it's a Fury. Might be a Nova, but I think it's a Fury. So in this Plymouth Fury, or in this car, the Dionysus is sort of driving. They're blasting about 80 miles an hour down the road, weaving through traffic. Orpheus feels like he's about to die. Dionysus assures him he's not going to die. And Orpheus says, and I think this is important to the entire show. Orpheus says, "How do I know you're you?" And Dionysus says, "We can't tell you who we are. You have to want to know. There's trust. You have to have faith." That's a little confusing, but it does sort of lead to how the gods mingle with humans. So they get to the part where Orpheus accepts that this is all now his new normal. And Dionysus says, "Tell me about your girl." And we cut back to Eurydice on the river Styx. So it's at this point, the part that I already referenced, that Caneus brings Cerberus, or I think I heard them say on the loudspeaker that Cerberus is considered the breed of dog, because they're all three-headed dogs, and then each has an individual name. So Caneus is bringing his Cerberus, barks at Eurydice. She has to get out of line and go get a job. So I guess after his shift or the next day, I'm not even sure what the timeline, but Caneus is brought in to be promoted to diver, and we get to meet Medusa, uh, one of the Titans. So it's Caneus and another woman we don't know who is excited about becoming a diver, and Caneus doesn't want to be a diver. He likes being a handler. He likes the dog. And of course, Medusa says, "There's no. I'm not asking you a question. I'm telling you what your new job is." And the woman does ask the happy woman asks, "Are you the Medusa?" And a snake peeks out from under the turban and hisses at the woman. And the woman says, "Why? How come I'm not turning to stone?" "Because you're dead. Because you're dead." Gotta love Medusa. Dionysus takes Orpheus to the cave where anybody that wants to try to recover one of their loved ones from the underworld just has to pass a quiz for the possibility to attempt recovery. So there's another couple, or there's a couple there who want their dead child back. And of course, Orpheus wants Eurydice. And the quiz, first thing, they have to, without words, communicate why they want their loved one back. And the couple, the mother and the father, do a very heart-wrenching pantomime, and Orpheus plays the piano, and everyone is well moved. But the other couple win. So the dad of the child is given the opportunity to try. Orpheus loses. Dionysus offers the Fates Zeus's watch. And, Eddie Izzard is fantastic as one of the Fates and accepts. So Orpheus is going to get to try. And we get a scene where Zeus wants to talk to his children about the humans and the desecration of the monument. And we see him dialing all of his children. He gets every single one of their voicemail. Nobody picks up the phone. This brings us to possibly the darkest we could possibly go on this show. Zeus's children are such a disappointment to him that he always keeps a few coming on Earth. We cut to Zeus having sex with a mortal girl who is pregnant with his child, and then come to find out that Zeus is not Zeus. That Zeus is Hera, who basically just had sex with Zeus's girlfriend as Zeus, because Zeus arrives, and Hera says, we've talked about this, no more children. And she brings the baby to term almost instantly. And the baby is laying on the floor, in its own uterine fluid and everything else. And Hera turns the girl into a bee to put her with the other women she had turned to bees. And she tells Zeus, "I'm going to go make us a cocktail. When I come back, that needs to be dead." And Zeus kills the baby. I'm not going to dwell on it, but that's how dark Greek mythology actually gets. So this does a couple of things. One, it shows us how dark we can go here. And two, it shows us that Hera's in control. Hera gives the order and Zeus does it. And, right when you think it can't be any worse, the director saves the mood with the soundtrack. So we hear the baby crying, Zeus kills the baby, and immediately the music kicks in and it brings everything up. So we don't get to dwell in the blackness of killing babies. We get a nice little jazz number that's happening as Hera introduces the newest member of her bee gang. So I think they're doing a really good job with Prometheus's breaking of the fourth wall and talking directly to us, because he is our narrator. So Zeus summons Prometheus, gives him a robe, and says he's going to wipe out half of the humans to get them back in line. So they're afraid again, because when they're afraid, they worship. And Prometheus starts to reason with Zeus, recalling things from their childhood, when Zeus wiped out all of their ants. I assume he means the little creatures. And Zeus wept for a week. Zeus says he doesn't remember that. And their dad killed their dog. And Zeus loved it back to life. And it was with him forever because he loved it back to life. And Prometheus breaks the fourth wall and tells us, this is true. This is the old Zeus, the one I believed in, right? Not the paranoid, maniacal, whatever this is. And Zeus puts Prometheus back on the rock. And he breaks the fourth wall again and explains that he tries to help us whenever he can, but there's only so much he can do, chained to the boulder. Eurydice, having been taken out of line, goes to the Center for the Unresolved, where she is informed that she was buried without a coin. She can't believe that because Orpheus was her coin bearer. And the guy assures her that there is no mistake here. And it will only be about 200 years before they get an opportunity to attempt to renew. Eurydice runs out of that room. We get back to the cave, and Dionysus and Orpheus are seated at their table. Dionysus calls for service. The bartender flips him the bird. Dionysus does a Dionysus and gets serviced by the bartender in the bathroom. And they swap shirts. And Orpheus notices when Dionysus comes back. He says, did you change your shirt? So we meet the Fates for real. They're introduced as the Fates. One of which is, or the main one is Eddie Izzard. For any of you that don't know Eddie Izzard, the one in the middle in the white with the blonde hair is Eddie. Very funny. If you want to look up a funny comedy special, Eddie Izzard's. So now we're into the quiz. So round one, there are mannequins brought out, and they are asked, all three contestants are asked simultaneously to use a marker and indicate every freckle, mole, and blemish on the deceased loved one. Orpheus makes a single dot on the shoulder blade of the mannequin, indicating that Eurydice has one blemish, one mole, and that immediately cuts to that mole on Eurydice's back. We see her exit the train that she's on at the River Leith. I think that's how you say it. Back at the cave, we find out that the older woman, who was the third contestant, is eliminated. She didn't get that one right. So it's just Orpheus and the couple with the deceased child. And then the couple is challenged to explain why they should be allowed to recover their child from the underworld, but they're not allowed to use any words. And they do a heart-wrenching pantomime. And then the same challenge is presented to Orpheus, who goes to the piano and plays a beautiful song. And it's determined that the couple wins. The man's going to be allowed to go attempt to retrieve their son. Now, at the River Leith, we see Medusa beginning to train or teach the new divers their job, and it's up to them to coax and, get the people through the frame. They can't force them. Free will's important, blah, blah, blah. Eurydice shows up and runs toward the water and the frame, but you have to submerge in the water to get through the frame. And Eurydice just runs across the top of the water. Without a coin, the water doesn't accept them. They just walk across the top. Caneus walks across the water as well because he also has no coin and brings Eurydice back. When Orpheus got done playing his beautiful song, Eddie Izzard, the Fate, throws a knife and impales his hand onto the piano and asks what he's done wrong. And Orpheus can't think of what he's done wrong. But Eddie Izzard takes the knife out and stabs his hand again. And then it's revealed that Orpheus kept Eurydice's coin. That's when we find out for sure that he really did. And we see the moment. We flash back and see that he took the coin. And he says, I only wanted to keep her in the underworld so I could go get her. So Dionysus asks the Fates, can we do something? There has to be something we can do to get him to go as well. And the Fate says, sure, for you, Dionysus. Give me the watch. And Dionysus says, no, I can't. It's just a watch in it. Then what's the problem? So now Dionysus is going to give over Zeus's watch to get Orpheus a chance to get to the underworld. We cut to Zeus, who brings Prometheus to him again and offers him the meander water. And Prometheus says no. I don't know why he says no. And then Zeus says, no, I got you this fun little gold bendy straw. Drink, drink, drink. And Prometheus pretends to drink and then spits out the water. And I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know if he doesn't trust Zeus, but Zeus already has him imprisoned on a rock being, his liver being eaten every day by an eagle. But Zeus explains to Prometheus his plan, a 2-phase plan. Natural disasters going to get them scared and kill a bunch of people. So Zeus explaining then phase 2 of his plan, where he's going to pit all the humans against each other until they hate each other and they want to fight wars. Sound familiar? And as he's explaining this to Prometheus, Prometheus keeps checking into the camera for us. As you know, are you getting this? But there's almost a double buried Easter egg thing here. So this actor playing Prometheus was also Baratheon in Game of Thrones. So Zeus, in explaining phase 2, says, this is a nod to you, right? I'm going to tell them stories. And he tells all the things. And then he describes how maybe somebody will steal somebody's wife and burn their kid, and they'll lead to a war. So, which is a double Easter egg, because it's a nod to that actor playing Baratheon, who that happened to in Game of Thrones, when in fact Baratheon in Game of Thrones was a symbolic reenactment of that character from Greek mythology. Yeah, everybody's thinking. Everybody's thinking. The last thing Prometheus says, as our narrator, says, according to myth, no one's ever made it back from the underworld. But as Zeus, more than anyone should know, never trust a myth. And that's the credits roll. So yeah, we unpacked a lot on this episode. I mean, we do travel a lot of ground and cover a lot of things. I think it's going great. I'm really enjoying this episode, or this series. How about you? Are you enjoying it? Are you learning things about Greek mythology, or did you already know it? Let me know in the comments. I was pleased to find out that at least one of you, Neo's the one in the comments, wasn't good, didn't know anything about this show until I released an episode covering episode 1 and decided to watch the show. I appreciate that. That's a heck of a compliment. I really do appreciate that. And I didn't know much about it either, and I was really afraid of this show because of the Jeff Goldblum factor, because it could have been so quirky it was strange, but I think it's just the right kind of quirky for the story we're telling. Like, only in this sort of quirky comedy could you get away with, killing a newborn. So, we didn't get to see Cassandra in this episode much, if at all. Can't remember. Did we see her at all? But she's going to have to turn up. And Zeus keeps referencing Hercules. Hercules gave him the watch that's now missing. It's now in the hands of the Fates. Orpheus is on his way to the underworld. Eurydice's, dealing, making friends. She has a new friend in Caneus. I'm not going to speculate on what's going to happen next, but let me know what you're thinking of this show. I think we're going to possibly introduce characters for the next episode or 2, and then we'll get the run to the resolution at the end of the season. And then that's when we'll find out if we have a cliffhanger into season 2. Not a guarantee that we would get a season 2, because it doesn't seem like there's too many people watching it. But it's Netflix. People are back in school. All the public schools are starting back up. People will settle into their non-summer routines and start picking up shows. So hopefully more people will watch this one. But that's it for this week, or this episode, I should say. I'm going to do these as quick as I can to get them out. What I think I may start doing, and I'm just thinking out loud, I have no idea if this process would even work, is I'm going to start doing full episode reactions and then cut them down to YouTube size show. Because a lot of people do that and it seems to work. But I'm not sure if that's going to be more or less work than making notes and then going back and talking about it. Anyway, let me know what you think, how you feel about all that. Because what I might end up doing is putting all of the full episode commentary up on Patreon and start that up. Somebody told me I should put out coffee mugs with the Sean's Take logo. Would you think that would be a thing? Would you like that as a thing? Let me know. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to stop rambling on now. That's it. I'm Sean. This is Sean's Take, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.